the Yolo County Land Acknowledgement. We should take a moment to acknowledge the land on which we are gathered for this meeting. For thousands of years, this land has been the home of the Patwin people, including the Yochadehe Winta Nation today. The Patwin people have remained committed to the stewardship of this land over many centuries. It has been cherished and protected as elders have instructed the young through generations. We are honored and grateful to be gathered today on their traditional lands.
Hi, everybody. So my name is Janey. Today we're talking about Cultivate 2024. And what this is the garden industry's biggest event, at least that's what they call it. And so this is highlights of it. This is my second year going, and I just wanted to share with all of you kind of some of the things that I learned and that I picked up while I was there about 2 weeks ago. So the key points I will go over today is basically what is Cultivate, what is the experience, what is the event all about, who attends Cultivate, then plant introductions for 2025. This is one of the big things about Cultivate is that the plant companies introduce a lot of their new plants at this event, which makes it really, really fun for garden industry people. And then there's also Retailers' Choice Awards that are awarded then, and that's pretty fun too because I'll get into it in a little bit, but it kind of explains what we're going to see in independent garden centers in the upcoming season. And then, of course, I'll talk about my favorites that I saw at the event because, there's always a couple of plants or products that you see and you say, oh, I want that. That's on my list. So I'll show you guys some of the cool new things I saw. So a little bit about me. Again, my name is Janey. I received my Master Gardener certification through Yolo County in 2023, Yolo Solano County. I am actually a full-time garden content creator. My channel is called Dig, Plant, Water, Repeat, and that allows me being a content creator for gardening, it allows me to kind of see a behind the scenes look at the green industry, which is really interesting to the juxtaposition between master gardeners where there's no marketing, there's no business. It's all about the gardening that I absolutely love. And then my day job where it's about the business basically. So it's kind of interesting to see the difference. And I think it's good to appreciate both of it, especially as master gardeners. We get a lot of questions from the public, and the public is getting marketed to by the green industry. So I think it's just good to keep your eye on everything that's going on. So that's why I say I've been behind the scenes of breeders, growers, greenhouses, independent garden centers, and more. I have a YouTube channel, I have a podcast, and I get to interview a lot of really, really interesting people and go see some really interesting places all across the country. And I am having a blast with it. That also gives me a lot of experience with the marketing aspect. Again, huge juxtaposition between master gardeners where we don't want to push anything. We don't want to push any brands or plants or anything like that. And then the marketing aspect of plant sales where that's really what it's about. And it's quite interesting, just like every industry out there, the garden industry has become kind of this huge mammoth thing. It's like its own living entity. So it's kind of fun to go to a place like Cultivate and see exactly what it is. Okay, so what is Cultivate? Cultivate's put on by American Hort. It is the biggest trade show. I call it like the biggest meeting of the garden industry in the United States. It's held every July in Columbus, Ohio, and they basically take over the town. It's incredible. There's so many people, and there's so many people wearing their shirts from all different plant companies and fertilizer companies and garden centers and greenhouses and growers and breeders. And it's just you go to a restaurant there and everybody is a gardener, everybody's in the garden industry, and it's a lot of fun. So it is, it's been going on for years and years and years. And of course, over the pandemic, it dropped a little bit, but then it's kind of come right back. And it's such a fun experience to go to. So here you can kind of see an overview. This is literally just one section of the massive event center. It's the Columbus Event Center that holds it. And this, I'm going to say this is like a tenth of it. It's huge. It takes so long to walk through it. I've been there years and I haven't even been able to see the whole event because there's so much going on. For my YouTube channel last year, I filmed a time lapse of me walking through the event, and I'll show you right now. And this is sped up, obviously. This was only half of the event. And as I walk through, you can see new plants, new products, new pots, new machines for, making the plants that we buy at garden centers, propagation, like all the new introductions that there's going to be in the upcoming season. And one of the purposes of Cultivate is for the independent garden centers. And what I mean by independent garden centers is not a big box store garden center. It's basically like a small garden center that is owned by either, one family or one company or something like that. They're independent. And so Cultivate really focuses on those people to come to see what's new and to decide what to sell to the public. So again, I think that's really important for me as a master gardener to know this kind of stuff, because I know the public is going to be asking about the plants that are sold to them at the garden centers. So I want to know the interesting things that are happening. So like I was saying, for Cultivate, they introduced new plant varieties. That's hands down my favorite part of it, just to see what's coming out. There are so many speakers. There are just world-renowned speakers there. So if you wanted to join one of the speaking engagements or one of the events, you can definitely do that and learn so much. It's not so much focused on gardening. It's more focused on the gardening business and the gardening aspects of, running a greenhouse or running a garden center or something like that. So it makes it really interesting. I actually have not been to any of the speakers because I kind of think of myself as more part of the public being there, but it is there if you are in the industry. There's also a lot of product innovations. There's so much that goes into the garden industry that we don't even understand. There's these huge machines there, sticking machines to stick the propagations, or seed sorting machines, or humidifiers, or grow lights, or, and there's just so many of it. And they're all the newest and most interesting machines are there at Cultivate. And so you can kind of look at it and see what's coming out. And when you see it, it's crazy. It's really interesting. It's a fabulous place to network. You'll see in a little bit, I'll show you, but you kind of walk by huge people of the industry. Alan Armitage and a gentleman named Ushio Sakazaki. They're plant breeders, and then other content creators and other business people from the garden industry. You basically see everybody just walking along the aisles. And so if you can recognize those people, it's really fun because you can get some really inside looks at what's going on in the gardening industry. Again, there's a Retailer's Choice Award. I will go over this in a little bit, but this is actually really important because these awards are put on by a group that is sponsored by independent garden centers. And so the independent garden centers sponsor this group to give these awards. And what they're doing is they're saying what plants or what products they think are really great and what should be sold in garden centers in the next season. So when you look at the winners of the Retailer's Choice Awards, I'll show you all some of them in a little bit. It really is very interesting to see, because you literally the next season, 2025, you can see these plants in the garden centers, and it's just kind of fun. There's also lots of workshops that you can go to, learning propagation or learning management of independent garden centers, or, growers or anything like that. Here in Davis, we're special here in Davis because we have cultivar trials at UC Davis, and Ohio State University has it as well. And they brag about that a lot, about OSU cultivar trials. And they bus busloads of people who want to go see the trials at OSU. And it's so funny because being here, we have that in Davis, that UC Davis, and, you can kind of drive by and you can see some trials, and, it's something else that you can see at Cultivate, which is kind of fun. And then there's, of course, garden tours. There's a beautiful botanical garden called the Franklin Conservatory, and they will take people there. Sometimes they'll take people to private gardens. It's just a really, really fun, basically a week-long event. So who attends Cultivate? So, as I've been talking a lot about the garden industry and marketing and business. So a lot of professionals do attend Cultivate. There's a lot of breeders, there's a lot of growers, a lot of marketers, a lot of researchers, a lot of educators, basically who work in the garden industry. And that is the majority of the people that attend this show. I would say if you are just part of the general public, it would be fun to go, but not as much fun as going to, say, like a garden show, like the Northwest Flower and Garden Festival or something like that, because that is more geared towards the public. This is definitely geared toward professionals. So depending on how deep of the information you want to learn with the business, that's how much you're going to get out of Cultivate. So myself technically being in the business, it's super interesting for me because, I can recognize the breeders and the growers and everybody like that. The public is welcome to come. They can come. It's open to the public. You do have to buy tickets. And it's really the plant enthusiasts. It's the plant nerds, right? That want to get a heads up on all the new things and everything that's happening. And what's really great is that these plant nerds can go and talk to the growers and talk to the breeders and have one-on-one, basically have access to these industry people that they wouldn't have access to otherwise. So it makes Cultivate fun to have those conversations. Okay, so talking about plant breeders, this is obviously something I was super excited about. I did get the opportunity to do a couple interviews, and the next interview is, I think it's Ushio. Yeah, his name is Ushio Sakazaki. Let's listen to him real quick. And Joan, let me know if you can't hear it.
Cannot hear it.
Oh, you can't? Shoot.
No.
So, sorry, guys. So basically what they were saying, he was saying in this interview, Ushio Sakazaki is a very famous plant breeder. And if you all are familiar with supertunias or superbells or cascading hydrangeas, he is the gentleman that discovered these plants, these amazing plants. They're basically annuals, they're branded, and they're just a really, just like a fun plant if you like ornamental gardening. So this gentleman is kind of a celebrity in his own right, in that he has basically changed the world of ornamental gardening based on the plants that he's bred. And what he was saying to me in this video is one of the things that he really feels strongly about with plant breeding is that he wants to not overbreed plants. So basically, a lot of plants that are sold in garden centers today, he considers to be overbred, that they almost look like plastic. And I'll agree with him. Sometimes you can go out there and you can see, even those cacti that are painted, you know what I mean? Like it's just been pushed a little too far. And so Ushio made a point of saying how important it was to keep the life, to keep the nature in these plants, because it gets people more excited, which probably is why he's such a successful plant breeder. And he's been doing it for 35 years or more, something like that. And he's 70 years old and he has no plans to stop, which is really, really exciting. I'm sorry, you guys can't hear it. So the next one, this gentleman, his name is Brent Horvath. He also bred different plants. He bred a version of a Shasta daisy in particular. He's done sedums and he's done some different type of pennisetum grasses. But the interesting thing about this gentleman is he is also a grower and a wholesaler, which means he grows plants and sells them to garden centers. And while growing plants, the way that he has bred his plants is he's just looked for anomalies in his growing facilities. So basically, if you grow hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of Shasta daisies, you're going to get anomalies, just like with genetics, you're going to get that one oddball. And he'll basically grab that oddball and then propagate that and create an entire different variety of Shasta daisy. So one of the Shasta daisies he developed is called Daisy May Shasta daisy, and it is a beautiful Shasta daisy. And it's really fun to hear how these breeders do it. And a lot of times they do it by cuttings, by vegetative cuttings. Sometimes they'll do it by seed, but 9 times out of 10, it's vegetative cuttings. So the point for me showing this to you is just, you can kind of see in the background, there's people all walking around and they all want to be there to talk. And so you can just grab somebody and get to know them. Everybody's wearing a badge. Brent took his badge off for the interview, but everyone's wearing a badge, so you can kind of just recognize someone and say, "Oh, I've read about you in an article or something like that," and that makes it really, really fun. Okay, Joan, should I ask for any questions? Any questions so far?
Does anyone have any questions? There's no questions in the chat.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Just let me know.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so on to the fun stuff. This is kind of like a little sneak peek. This is plant introductions. And so this is my favorite reason for going to Cultivate, basically. They will introduce new plants, and there will literally be like excitement about plants. You can hear people talking about it as you walk around and Cultivate. And one of those is this aspidistra, which is a cast iron plant, and it's called Tokyo Skies. And it's meant to be a ground cover in zones 8 through 10, a house plant in lower zones. But the variegation on this plant is gorgeous. This picture doesn't do it justice, but I saw it when we were there, and it's just so beautiful. And it's basically a plant that we can use in the shade, and it's brand new. It actually came out last year. It got a ton of awards last year, but it didn't come out into the market. Well, I don't think it's coming out till 2025. So it's water wise. It can take full shade. It gets about 2 to 3 feet tall, and it is just really, really beautiful. And the buzz about this plant is really exciting. And so a lot of people are, I think we're going to see this plant a lot more, and I think that we'll see different variations of it just because there was so much excitement with this plant. Okay, another one I was super excited about. This is called Gold Leopard Canna, and it's just this beautiful canna that literally looks like leopard markings. It's so beautiful. A couple different plant companies will sell this. So sometimes there is a breeder, and a breeder develops a plant like the Gold Leopard Canna, and then they don't exclusively sell it to one company. So it's kind of sharing with the masses, basically. And this is one of those examples of that plant. And so this is another one that I think we're going to see in garden centers. It's hardy zone 7 through 11. It's a little bit shorter than other cannas that we grow around here. They do say it's a good canna for cooler zones, which is not an issue for us here in California, but it is a really, really beautiful plant. And just being able to see it in person, it's like, again, pictures don't do it justice. I wish I could show a better view of it. Another one that I'm very excited about, and I will say, just in full disclosure, this is a Proven Winners plant, and I do work with Proven Winners, contract with them sometimes, but this is one that I would be excited about if I worked with them or not. So Supertunia, this is the vegetative petunia that Ushio Sakazaki bred so long ago, and the Supertunia Vista bubblegum was the original one, and now they've done different cultivars. And the new one for 2025 is the Supertunia Tiara Pink, which is absolutely beautiful. It's hardy zones 10 through 11, about a foot tall and 2 feet wide. And what a vegetative petunia is versus a seed petunia. A seed petunia are the ones that you see at the garden centers in those little 6-packs. Those are seed petunias, and they mainly grow upright. And that's pretty much it. You have to deadhead those petunias for them to keep blooming. They're not as vigorous and productive as vegetative petunias. They're beautiful, but there's been so much breeding to improve those. And the way that they improve them is by taking cuttings of them. So this plant right here, funny enough, it has been bred to not set seed. So if you think about an annual's life cycle, an annual will go, it'll grow, it'll bloom, and then it'll set seed, and then it'll die because it's done its job. It's set seed. Well, this plant has been bred by breeders like Ushio Sakazaki to not set seed, to never get to the point for it to set seed. And what that means is that that plant is constantly in that cycle of producing more and more blooms because it's trying to fulfill, it's kind of sad, but it's trying to fulfill its life goal of setting seed and then dying, but it never does set seed because it's been bred that way, just by selective breeding. And so this plant will basically just bloom and bloom and bloom and bloom all season long until a frost kills it, which is the main difference between vegetative petunias and seed petunias that you see in the little 6-packs. The performance is so much better when you get some of these plants like that. They're not natives. They're bred to within an inch of their life. But as Ushio was talking about with me, and he was saying it's important for him to keep nature and to keep life in these plants. And so it's a nice balance without creating like a monster plant, basically. I don't even know what would happen if if they took this even further, because this plant is incredible. All right, let's get on to the Retailer's Choice Awards. So basically what the Retailer's Choice Awards, they're 15 best in show plants or products from the show, and it's chosen by the Garden Center Group. And the Garden Center Group, I was talking a little bit before, this is the group that the IGCs, which is Independent Garden Centers, this is the group that the IGCs all come together and sponsor. And so then this group can basically do the research and guide the garden centers as to what's going to be good and what's going to be bad, what's worth their time and energy and what's not worth their time and energy. So this is one of the main features of Cultivate, is these Retailer Choice Awards. It's a big deal, and it's always a big deal to see what wins. That cast iron plant, the Tokyo Skies that I showed you, it won a Retailer's Choice Award last season. Sometimes plants that are grown by cutting or grown by, what am I trying to say? Stem cell, something like that. Stem cells. Sometimes they take longer to come to market because it takes longer for them to build up the amount for them to go out to market. And that was the problem with that cast iron plant, why it's at Cultivate 2 years in a row. All right, so like I said, there were 15 winners of the Retailer's Choice Award. I'll just go over a couple of them that I thought were really, really interesting. This one is called Hellebor's Mount Nebo. This is a new feature of hellebores. So hellebores are beautiful. They bloom in the winter for us. They're absolutely gorgeous. And it's usually the blooms that we look at with hellebores is the thing that we're focusing on. And even some people will even defoliate a hellebore so that they can focus on the blooms. Well, this company has kind of changed that, and they focused on the foliage instead of the flowers. So as you can see, all the new foliage on Mount Nebo is this beautiful pinky red color. It's really, really gorgeous. And then they still have flowers, but it's just still focusing on the foliage. And that was a common thread that I saw at Cultivate this year, is that there's a lot of foliage focused plants, which I think is fabulous. I love blooms. I absolutely love blooms, but there's a lot of focus on the foliage, which makes it really fun too. It kind of just expands our ornamental gardening horizons. So Mount Nebo is actually part of a whole series of hellebores. This is just the variety that won the Retailer's Choice Award, probably because of how beautiful these leaves are. And it's hardy zones 6 through 9. Another winner was actually a triple winner. It was the Angel Flare. It was the Angel Flare, and then one other, gosh, what was the name of that one? Basically, it was this pink one, this red one, and then this black one that you can see in this left. It's an Angelonia, and basically the dark one that I showed in the picture on the right is a new dark color of Angelonia, which is a type of annual, and it's called Angel Flare Black, and it's a new color, and it's another one that everybody's super excited about because it's so interesting. And then it's also a different habit. It's a V-shaped habit, so you can plant this Angelonia with lantana or kufia, and it's going to look really, really beautiful even in the summer, which is great. So this is another one people were very excited about. Here's a product. I mean, this is the funny kind of stuff that you see at Cultivate. I just had to add this in. The 3-tiered shopping cart won an award, won a Retailer's Choice Award. And enough said. Yeah, of course I want another tier on my shopping cart. You know what I mean? So it's things like that you just walk around and you're like, oh yeah, we need that. I need a place to put my purse or my coffee while I'm at the garden center. So we should start seeing some 3-tiered shopping carts in our garden centers over the next couple years, which I just think is funny. This other one is Lion Cub Rudbeckia, which I just thought was so incredibly interesting. It's a pom-pom Rudbeckia, zones 8 through 10. The really cool thing, which you can't even tell from the pictures here, it's a beautiful Rudbeckia, but the old blooms apparently start to develop contrasting red petals. So this plant never actually looks bad. Basically, you can let the blooms dry on the plant, and they're just going to get a little darker, a little redder, and you don't have to deadhead them. So you can just basically let it dry and leave it up, and it's going to look beautiful. So this is definitely one that I would like to try eventually once I can get my hands on it, once it comes out. And I think it definitely deserved an award. All right, so let's talk about my favorites. This is obviously my own personal opinion. The first one is this plant right here. It's a Dipladenia, and Dipladenia is very similar to a Mandevilla, they kind of look the same. The cool thing about this one, though, is that look at this upright habit of a Dipladenia. It stands straight up, and you can see this plant. The color of this plant is so beautiful. You can literally see this plant like way down the aisle. You can see this plant. There was one person who had it displayed in a fire pit, and they had it in the middle, and then they had some other like orangey plants around it, and it looked like a fire made out of blooms in the fire pit, and it was so beautiful. And it was so funny because this actually did win one of those Retailer Choice Awards. And I remember walking by this plant going, oh, I really hope that plant wins, because if that plant wins, then that means this plant is going to be in the garden centers for us to buy.
Yeah.
And it did win, which I was super excited about. So it's just a really, really cool plant. I've never seen anything like it before. And what the company that sells it is saying that there's 4 more versions, 4 more different colors coming out in the next coming years, which is what these plant companies do. They kind of hold it back. They'll develop different colors. So I've actually been in research and development greenhouses where I wasn't even allowed to take my phone in. I couldn't bring anything in. It was like all down on lock and key. And they would show me different colors of plants that they had developed. And there was years on them of what years they were going to release it. I mean, there's so much marketing to it. It's crazy, but it's kind of interesting. So same thing for this plant. Apparently there's 4 more versions, colors. Nobody knows which ones yet. And they'll be coming out in the next couple of years, but this is one I definitely want to get my hands on, and I loved it. This is another one. It's Musa Nano Pink Variegated Banana. It's an ornamental banana. It does make little pink fruit, apparently, little bananas, but you can't eat them. This is one that I guess has been popular in Thailand for years. Like, you can see them everywhere, and they're being sold like crazy in Thailand. So one of the breeders obviously went over, purchased some rights to this plant and brought it back, and then started breeding it. And now we are going to have access to it in America and wherever else the companies are located. So it's just really fun because that this plant is going to do really well because it's done so well in other countries, and it's beautiful because it has pink, white, and green variegation. You can plant this outside. You can use this as an indoor plant. I'm just really excited about this plant. All right, and then The next one that I'm super excited about, it's kind of a grouping of plants. I'm sure you all, or a lot of you, have heard about Bad Hair Day mangave, which is a fabulous mangave. What mangave is it's a mix between agave and manfreda. And so it has the beautiful look of an agave with drought tolerance and heat tolerance and all that kind of stuff. But the problem with agave is agave grows so slow, like so slow. You know, like it's a sign of pride if you have a big century plant, you know, in your front yard or something like that. So when they crossed it with manfreda, it allowed it to grow a lot faster. And then the manfreda actually has some more color, which is kind of hard to say because it's all green. It's still just different colors of green. You can see on the picture on the left, but the cross has just been a huge success. And this picture on the right of the hanging basket with this is Catch a Wave mangave with some Diachondra Silver Falls. This is actually my hanging basket that I have in my garden this year, and I'm obsessed. I love this plant. I love mangave. It does so well in California, and they are releasing them to the public now, which is kind of what Cultivate was saying, is they introduced some more varieties and they're releasing all of these to the public, which is really exciting. One of the amazing things about mangave is that it can handle more water. It can be drought tolerant. You can treat it like what it looks like, a drought tolerant plant. But as you can see, I have it in hanging baskets. And to keep that Silver Falls, that Diachondra Silver Falls happy, I actually have to give this water like 3 times a day, which is crazy. I know. I have it on drip, but normally, if you would have like an agave or a succulent in there, that wouldn't be able to handle it. That's too much water for it. But the mangave can handle more water. So you can basically put it in a garden bed and then put, you know, petunias around it or put alyssum around it, and it's going to be absolutely beautiful. So it's just another ornamental plant that's really, really exciting. It's fresh, it's new, it's something that none of us have had in our gardens before. I mean, we've had Bad Hair Day and stuff like that, but now they're going to make it more accessible for everybody at the garden centers and everything like that. So mangave is really exciting. The line is Mad About Mangave from Walter's Gardens. Walter's Gardens has a breeder there called Hans Hansen, and he actually has developed so many plants that we know and love. He hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, of plants. So almost all of these mangave are ones that he has developed just by taking, you know, cuttings from one and mixing it with it. I don't really know how he does it, but it's really, really interesting. And he's a very interesting breeder to talk to. As you guys can see, I have a special place in my heart for breeders. I just find it so interesting. And then they're also being sold under Art and Soul Mangave from Proven Winners. So you guys can find it there. So in conclusion, my trip to Cultivate, it's very, very marketing centric. A lot of people will ask me if they should go, if it's worth it. And if it's just the general public, I mean, it's fun, but I would say only if you live in Ohio and it's just a drive. It's so independent garden center focused. It's so green industry focused that just wait for somebody to give you like a heads up on what was released and what got awards rather than going. I mean, unless you're a big plant nerd, then absolutely it's open to the public. But I would say it's definitely more for business focused. Which to me makes it interesting because it's part of my job, but just learning the information and understanding what's coming up in the green industry in the upcoming years makes this a really, really fun thing to kind of just keep an eye on. So that is it. Does anybody have any questions?
We can open it up to questions if anyone has any. That was lovely. Anyone? Questions? Okay.
All right.
I'll send the recording on to Master Gardeners, and we'll be back in 2 weeks with Deb. Deb's here for climate ready plantings in 2 weeks. Hi, Deb. Okay. All right. Thanks, Oh, so does it cover vegetables? There you go.
Oh, do they cover vegetables at Cultivate? Yes. Okay. And when I say it's very loosely vegetables, they cover what I would say like designer vegetables, right? They, one of the winners of the retailers choice awards was this new vegetable. It's a hanging cherry tomato that is supposed to handle some type of fungus. I can't remember exactly which one, but basically it's supposed to be resistant to a certain fungus. So the company was debuting that new tomato and how great it was and how it's going to be resistant to fungus and all that kind of stuff. But when it comes to like a lot of vegetable, like seeds and all that kind of stuff, it doesn't have a lot. It's more like designer vegetables. I hope that makes sense. Stuff that you would see like potted up in a pretty pot and then sold at a garden center. That's the kind of vegetables that they would cover.
There's a follow-up question to that.
Yeah.
What annual industry event is more for vegetable gardening?
So, I'm probably not the best person to ask. I know that Baker's Creek has their big heirloom event that's in September. It's down south. It's supposed to be fantastic. It's supposed to be really, really interesting. So Baker's Creek is a seed company. I think it's like rareseeds.com. I mean, they have every vegetable that you can basically think of. They actually have a store over in Petaluma. It was about an hour and a half away, that's really interesting. And so they have an event every single year and people from all over go to it. I've actually never been to that event, just because I can't get my company to pay for a flight to that event because they don't show at that event. But it looks like so much fun, and they demonstrate all the new vegetables and all that kind of stuff. At least what Baker's Creek has. There's also another one called Tomato Mania. I don't know if you all have heard of that, but that's supposed to be a really fun event as well. That's more kind of like like a fair, I guess is what I would say. Tomato Mania is a fair. And I know it's not just tomatoes for that. I'm going to a garden center up in Oregon called Bauman's Farms, and they've hosted Tomato Mania a couple years as well. So it kind of moves around, but it's really fun.
Okay, I think that's it. Thank you, everybody. Thanks,
Thank
Janey.
you. Thank
I'll
you
get
so
the
much.
recording posted.
Okay.
Okay.